All right, guys, can you hear me fine? Hopefully so. I was looking at some clips and I thought, you know what? I think this is a little better. I'm not going to appear as ghostly as I usually do. Diddly, diddly, diddly do. So, yesterday we went through the news. I'm sorry, I hadn't been here in a minute because I hyperfixate on the stupidest shit. But as you can see, I have a new background and this overlay called, well, the theme is Blue Surveillance State. So all the scenes are a little bit in the same idea as that theme. So if I hit YouTube, I can see YouTube. I think this is fine. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to see properly. I'm going to have to redo some adjustments. Ay, ay, ay. I also have the cat who's hitting and scratching the mic arm. I didn't go through the YouTube page yet, but I still had a bunch of videos in the backlog. So I usually always watch the latest videos. All right, stop looking at myself. This should be okay. That's very bright. Usually I like it very dark. You know what? I see people actually stream in almost complete darkness. This is the darkest. Guess this is fine for the moment. If we end up streaming later, it might go darker though. Let's see if everything is set. This is fine. I do this. Am I frozen? Don't move, don't move, don't move. Papi, don't move. Still frozen. Oh, hijo de puta! Fucking stupid ass cat. Where's the other remote? I also have a whole bunch of transitions that I need to update on each themes. Is not they're all from the old cyber warfare theme. That's all right. That's some good coffee right there. Yeah, boy. Can you hear the soundboard? Beautiful. All right, so I have the controls here. Ah, yeah. So let's go on to YouTube. What do we got? Let's see if we got a latest video of Dylan. I guess that's the big one. Let's watch this. Let's watch this. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. These are so popular. And now they've made a collab together, so we have to watch that. What does that mean? Is it properly canceled? All right, let's start with
What is up, my favorite humans and possibly agents out there?
Dylan.
We're going to start by talking about self doubt. It's literally an optical illusion.
Ah, shit. Well, since I have no viewer, I don't want to give money to Google. Um, in all sincerity. But if we get enough people watching the videos, I will pay for a subscription. I don't want to watch ads. So, that's going to be a pain in the butt. Anyways, let's watch Dylan Curious. AI won't surrender.
Just like this image, would you believe that A and B are the exact same shade of gray? No kidding.
I mean, these are basic optical illusion. I wonder if, well, I'm pretty sure a model would be able to recognize, that is the same color.
I know it doesn't look that way. It's just so much of an illusion. So a random guy was just vibe coding a DIY project to control his robot vacuum with a PlayStation controller, and it worked a little too well. Turns
Yeah, he
out that
was
his controller
controlling a whole bunch of them at the same time, which exposes security flaws with the products rushed to market. So,
was actually accessing 7,000 robot vacuums at the same time. You can see here it says that he could watch their live camera feeds, listen through onboard microphones, and generate floor plans of homes he'd never visited.
yeah, so if he's able to do that, you can assume that a whole bunch of other organizations and people are able to do the same thing as well.
Why?
And not just that product, you can assume that anything that has cameras, speakers, microphones would be able to be exploited one way or another. Even more so if you have things that are connected to your Wi-Fi. It is it just goes with it.
Does a robot vacuum need a microphone? An AI generated video of Dario Amade shows Anthropic's response to China for stealing the model, distilling it out. I'm going to point out some practical
Oh,
ways
that's
that
gonna be
AI
funny.
might start driving better governance. Climate, COVID, food safety. What do you think? Humans possess one thing that AI does not: judgment.
Well, this is debatable.
True or false? Let me know in the comments. We're going to talk about how adding eyes to any robot
Oh my god. There is such a thing as the uncanny valley. which in in and of itself is a weird subject, you know? Why evolutionarily or evolutionary we developed a sense of unease, discomfort, fear when we see something that is human like but not quite human. You know, why would. Oh my god! Oh my god! Fuck, that was so scary. Oh shit. So, why would we have that sense? Is it because there has been in the past, you know, from our ancestors, have they seen things that looked human but was not, and they had to protect themselves from it? Anyways, just a little thought experiment.
Completely affects our perception of what a humanoid robot is doing. I'll break down an interesting paper that talks about the molecular structure of thought, and then look at another fascinating paper called the AI Arms and Influence paper. We'll talk about the cutting edge of AI models that can now predict solar storms weeks before they strike. Turns out models that are actually trained to forget to help preserve like actual people's private data actually leak it in sensitive fingerprints. I'll break down a new model called Zuna, which is a foundational model for, get this, EEGs. That's right, it reconstructs brain waves. It works across sensors, layouts, and missing channels. It reconstructs real human brain thoughts. And for anybody who
This is super fucking disgusting. Let's just take a quick sideline. Um, mm, mm, some proper keywords like MRI. Oh, there you go. I already fucking looked that up. When was the last time? So it's so crazy. Is this it? This is it. All right. So this is a person's brainwave being analyzed while they are presented images and movie reconstruction from human brain activity. This phenomenon is also very similar when people read as when people see images or movies. The same areas in the brain light up. I'm not sure if we're gonna see it in here. I think it might be another video, probably a longer video. But it's so crazy. The elephant is very unsettling. So let's have a quick look. There's no sound. This is insane. Oh my god. This is so insane. All right, so you have these images, okay, that they show up. This was posted 14 years ago, right? So that's a while ago, right? If you've had enough brain activity record matched with clips, these associations, if you have enough of it, you can train a model. And because of the amount of information, that it has, it would be able to accurately predict what you are presented, or what you would be seeing, or what you would be imagining or dreaming of. It could accurately reconstruct what it is. That is unsettling. That is spooky as fuck. What do you do with that? You have, all right, so, you know, you take this information, you're aware of it, just put it aside here. You also have, um, that's going to be heat map of, all right. I think this is going to be right. Is this like the scientific paper that explains it? So effectively, if you have a uh, Wi-Fi router, or access point, it's going to emit a signal, right? And because it's able to receive signal as well, when it emits the signal, it's, well, it's I guess it's a little bit like a echolocation from bats, right? Where they scream, and the signal bounces, and when it comes back, depending on like the difference with the original signal, they're going to be able to locate, a wall, and see how far or close it is to the reference point. And I guess with the same idea, the routers antennas, or the access points antennas, they're able to measure the signal in decibels, right? So decibels are the difference between two references, and usually it's sound, but here it would be the frequency, the signal. And so effectively they would be able to map, you know where that device is located. And there's I mean, this image is pretty dramatic. I don't think it doesn't look like that. Oh well. So I guess it does look like that. So effectively, they're able to, quote unquote, see what's around, right? And with enough information, with enough data, you mix that up with a large language model, and you could imagine that they would be able to see pretty vivid pictures, the representations that are like one for one with the reality. That's pretty scary. And you mix that up, because these are signal, right? They're electromagnetic. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but you mix that up with the idea that
Why does it seem like all
with MRIs, they're able to reconstruct what you see or you picture in the future, you could imagine that there will be device set up all around and see if you're having naughty thoughts. That's a crazy idea, but I don't know. It doesn't feel too far off. Doesn't feel too far off.
Can make it all the way to the end of this video and makes it to the end of all my videos, they deserve to understand what the 8 subtle signs are that mean that you might be disassociating.
I just built a budgeting app with Base 44.
Interesting. Can it generate reports?
It can now. Anything else?
Can this thing process invoices?
Can it show cost growth by category?
Can it track spending trends?
But first, can you hook your boy up with a hype button press? I actually didn't get that many, only 84 on the last video. So it'd be very appreciated if you could just swipe left on the comments there, and if that hype button is showing up, because the video is published in the last 7 days and you still have one of your 3 hypes left for the week, that you drop it on this vid. Help it stand out in the sea of garbage that's uploaded to YouTube every day. I mean, look, I guess I can't call it garbage. People just like different content. All right, let's start by talking about what is literally an optical illusion, or self-doubt. So Nira Yal writes, neuroscience reveals why your, quote, nothing original to say feeling is literally a trick of the brain. Okay,
I mean, some people don't have anything to say, and that's all right. You shouldn't talk. But also, if you like to wonder about things, everything is pretty amazing.
Found this really helpful because I had to remind myself that the brain is literally silently discarding 99.99995% of reality before you even become aware of it. The mind can only handle 50 bits per second. So our senses are taking in roughly 11 million bits of information every second. The conscious mind can only handle about 50. And if you think about it for a minute, what is the deciding factor to make it so that your brain decides what should stay? What are the 50 bits? That filter is your beliefs. We don't see the world as it is. We see a tiny slice. It's shaped by what we already think, expect, and focus on. Like 2 characters walking into the same room. One feels happy and sees a warm fireplace. The other feels angry and sees a hot, threatening space. Same room, different realities. Science proves this. And if you want any more proof, check.
It's not different realities, it's just different perceptions, because we see the same object, right? But we don't perceive it the same way.
This out. This is the famous checkerboard illusion. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But those 2 squares that have A and B on them, they look very different. I know they do to you and me, but they are exactly the same shade of gray. Exactly. One is not dark and one is not light. It just creates that, like, because your brain is correcting the one that is in the shade to be lighter so that the pattern fits. And I know it's mind-blowing, but these are screenshots I just took of that exact image. There's B. They're exactly the same. Same shade of gray around the B. But in the context of this whole image with the shadow, they look very different. And guess what? That change is also how self-doubt works. If
Yeah, self-doubt
you lack
is
talent, your brain.
yeah, self-doubt is real as well, because you do doubt yourself. And some people they have a hard time, just taking a step back and just letting go of things. I think Dylan talked about that a couple of videos ago. The spotlight effect. You live your life because you are in your own body, and the life that you live is yours. And because of that, you feel that, if you walk into a room, into a class or office, there's everybody's gonna look at you and they're all gonna think, uh, what are you wearing? What are you doing? What are you eating? But in reality, well, you you might think that, but and you have your own preoccupations, and what what am I gonna have to cook? Uh, you know, I have bills to pay. Uh, you know, shit like that. And these other people, they have their own shit as well. So whenever you feel like you might be in the spotlight in the eyes of other people, it happened to me so many times where you are under the impression that there's something going on, and when you actually talk to the person, you weren't even on their mind, you weren't there. We all are in the spotlight of our own lives, but we shouldn't worry about that. That's why you just have to let go sometimes a little bit.
Highlights rejection and ignores opportunity. Feedback feels like proof that you should quit, but that's all a distortion. It's not your personality, it's an optical illusion. And this is the daily reminder that once you understand that, it loses its power. We just have to know that the brain has a weird filter on it, and we can control it if we step back from the moment and then tool that change, that keyhole, that window that we see that's filtered out, so that it's not a flaw, it's actually an advantage. Let's see the opportunities. I'm going to try to see the opportunities with AI. Maybe this will make me a little bit less of a doomer. Probably not, but maybe. All right, next up, I definitely got an interesting story for you. I think we're going to see more of this, but it's kind of the first time something sort of caught me off guard in this way. There's a hobbyist, like just a dude, like we all know, that does DIY projects. He's vibe coding, and he's got this idea where he's like, you know what? I'm just going to use my PlayStation game controller to drive my robot vacuum. All right, sounds like a good thing to vibe code, talk to Gemini, see what you can do, and all of a sudden it's coding away, it's trying to figure out how to make this thing works. It pulls an auth token off the cloud, I guess, from what I understand. But whatever it did, however, it just decided to make this thing.
That is so crazy. So that is most likely a misconfiguration somewhere, Somebody wasn't careful enough.
Work, and it did work. It worked a little too well. He ended up getting control of so many robot vacuums, 7,000 of them across the world. I'm thinking to myself, like, what is DJI doing? Like, are they why is he tapping into every camera in 7,000 homes, including the microphone and the floor layouts of all these people's houses? His custom app tried to connect to the robot vacuum, and 7,000 vacuums.
So I'm gonna repeat it again. If he was able to do that, anybody else with a minimum amount of motivation would be able to do the same shit. So you can assume that anything that has cameras, sensors, any type of sensors, microphones, speakers. Speakers are just microphones in reverse. So if you have speakers, you could technically have a microphone. Anything that is connected to Wi-Fi, you have to assume that it's a piece of shit that was rushed to market, that was made, that there was some place where they cut costs to make more profits. And 100% guaranteed security is very high uh, in that list. You have to assume that it's a piece of shit, and anybody can connect to it. Anybody can see. Anybody can hear. It's a it's a given.
In 24 countries answered. I guess the flaw is pretty simple. Once logged in with the device token, DJI server let him see traffic from other devices in plain text. There were no proper access controls. But it's just crazy. He used AI to decompile the DJI app. He extracted his token. He built a new client. that would once have required such deep expertise, and now it just takes curiosity and the right prompt. So next up, I could tell you about how one of the trending articles this week is Anthropic complaining about how Chinese companies have made 24,000 accounts to try to poke around and distill out the best part of Anthropic's model Claude.
Steelers complaining about being stolen from. The pot calling the kettle black.
But I feel like this does it better. Let the AI narration commence.
Yang, DeepSeek, Moonshot, you created 24,000 fake accounts to distill Claude's brain.
Yes.
Oh, is that on based on Silicon Valley? He was so fucking funny in that show.
New Clar, it is much better and very cheap.
That is industrial scale thief. It destroys all alignment protocols.
No, Dario, you do the hard work. I take the good parts. This is called open source. You are welcome.
It's the beat from Silicon Valley, man. That shit was so good.
I'll just kind of cruise through it, but the article is called Building Technology to Drive AI Governance. This might have hit me especially hard today just because Wes and I filmed a podcast and we were kind of thinking about like, how does the world transition? And I guess
Whoops.
yeah, if you want to break it down, instead of just staying super high level about how like crazy it's going to be when all the jobs are gone and what AI is going to do, like how does it actually get integrated into our society? Well, here's a couple practical ways that it could be implemented for climate change, for food safety, things that can actually be measured, the way incentives can be shifted. So here's some ideas. If you want to start a business that is a climate-focused business, maybe you could try to get funding from the government and you use AI to end the global warming and cooling, how it's happening and how fast it's changing, understand the growth rate or prevalence of like viruses, transmission.
Oh yeah. What's I think it's 2.5 gigawatts and we solve cancer? I mean, let's go. Let's go.
Missions, COVID, use AI for time horizons, track capacity and growth of the different servers that are coming online, how the energy is being used. So satellite methane imagery, you can imagine putting together all sorts of satellite data to try to figure out where methane leaks are. Some specialized cameras, specialized AI models would be super helpful here. All sorts of new things for testing models, right? Deception, sycophancy, a bunch of behavioral benchmarks. I can imagine just sitting down with a psychology expert, finding all sorts of things that need to be benchmarked on these models. Emissions regulation, fuel efficiency measurements, maybe a company that does that. Airports, helicopter.
We should have a quick look. I think it was Albania. All right, so in September 2025 in Albania, the prime minister appointed a congresswoman who's an AI generated avatar. I'm curious to know on which model it's running. All right, let's see if we have a quick news or. I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna make an account. All right, so first news here. Let's switch it up. We have to do read. And okay, Albanian actor Anila Bisha is renowned for playing complex women on the stage and screen. Skills honed over a 30-year career, but now she lives in the shadow of her AI avatar in a performance she never gave. Well, yeah, so what happens is that in the roles that she had, her character, her existence in a movie or a show didn't belong to her, and most likely that's what was sold to be used as the congresswoman. So maybe she had a character that was already close to that, and that's the first step, right? So they do it someplace very far. I mean, if I had not looked this up, we wouldn't have known. Nobody would know. Nobody would care, honestly. She agreed to lend her face and voice to virtual assistant for an online government service portal. So for work, she did so, and whatever she produced was not for her. So most likely in the contract, or there's language somewhere where she paid money, no, she received money, and she gave her likeness in that context. What else? Oh, so people who don't like the prime minister hate me, and I feel so hurt. I mean, that's unfortunate. You've had people play some characters where they weren't very liked. It happens. But this is pretty crazy here. Rama continues to promote Diela abroad as part of his promise to root out corruption, a key requirement for the country's EU ambitions. Since December, the head of the department responsible for the AI has been under house arrest for his alleged links to an illegal manipulation of government tenders. This was supposed to fix corruption. Rama's own deputy is also embroiled in a corruption scandal. Ay, ay, ay. Albania created an AI minister to curb corruption, then its developers were accused of graft. Has been described as the world's first government minister. Don't give a shit about that. All right, this is a little bit more what I'm looking for. What the fuck? What am I looking at? Yo, what? News for kids? Real news told simply. Yo, what the fuck? All right, February. That's a couple of weeks ago. So it was meant to fight corruption, but now there are questions about Diala itself, and the woman whose fate. Yeah. So they're talking about the lawsuit. It was created by Albania's National Agency for Information Society. All right, so what are the questions that Dayala is facing? Oh, okay, okay. So the lawsuit, the details is that she agreed to let the government use her face and voice on the website for a year, but she never agreed for her image to be used as the face of a government minister. I apologize. I came to a rushed conclusion. So she would be in her right, and so she's suing the government for 1 million euros. Hey, that's my name. She says the government doesn't have the right to use her face. Okay, so it's the same information. The group that created Diala was arrested on corruption charges. Now, some people wonder if Diala could have been programmed to ignore some illegal actions. Listen, listen, I'm gonna have to fix that. I'm sorry. I need to fix everything. Doesn't matter. This sentence is the most important of the whole article. Now, some people wonder if Diella could have been programmed to ignore some illegal actions. If it's possible here, what makes it impossible elsewhere? If you have something that you're not in control of, how can you be 100% sure that there isn't anything nefarious going on? Ay, 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 guys. All right, let's go back to YouTube.
Just robots, drones, just figure out like how efficient are they, how much electricity are they using. That kind of information would be so important. Like they like almost everything that we need in a more modern day census. Keeping an eye on training runs and model deployment.
So, people deploying that, would they have incentives of X, you know?
Make safe milk the cheap default. Pasteurization. Yeah, I haven't thought about that, but yeah, taking video or some sort of other measurements of the cows, of where the milk is is it like safe at all levels during transportation, cameras and sensors in the trucks, in the delivery systems. Like someone could build all of that. So yeah, plenty more ideas. Measurements to enable governance. So if you're technically skilled and care about AI going well, solving problems described above is one of the places you could start because you'll have the most leverage. And the bottlenecks on an effective AI governance is not just political will, there's also an appetite to regulate AI among both voters and policymakers. And the bottleneck is actually that we don't have yet the measurement infrastructure, the cheap evaluation tools, or the well-specified policy options to regulate it. All right, now let's ask this question.
Well, this is one of the advantages, quote unquote, because that's for these companies. If they keep going as fast as they can, whatever that they, because anything legal policies, it takes time, right? They make uh, committees, whatever, and they talk about they have to see everything, think about everything, and it's such a low process that whenever they would be ready to do something, the language that they use wouldn't be representative of the new reality, and it makes it so that the companies are able to circumvent and still go about their merry way, uh, and do whatever the fuck they want because they're able to skirt around whatever regulations or policies are being made because it's not even relevant anymore. So this is some just dirty stuff that keeps happening.
Humans possess one thing that AI does not: judgment, with a question mark. Do you believe that to be true? All right, let's go look at Steven Adler's thoughts.
Ah, yes. I mean, from my experience, most people don't have a lot of judgment. So that's that. Oh no. Jan LeCun believed in the past, so that means that Steven here, I guess he's not on the same page as Jan, the godfather of AI. uh, that's crazy. 2 months later, GPT 3.5 proved him wrong. I mean, he was working at Meta and he had to say, oh yeah, Meta's chief AI scientist made an expensive error. Bro, the fuck? Alright, you can understand that I am not. Uh, I'm not in the same side as Mr. Adler, unfortunately. I mean, I will believe this person that has the most experience.
Judgment isn't uniquely human, neither is taste, so why do we keep making that mistake? He starts by telling the story of Jan LeCun. I think by now, do we all know it? Maybe not. He believed that models like GPT-3 only being trained on text couldn't actually be intelligent. How could they possibly learn about real-world physics just from a bunch of text tokens? So a question like, if a plate sits atop a table and you push the table, what happens to the plate? He thought it couldn't abstract or generalize a concept like that just from the text alone. Not even GPT 5000 would be able to learn this, he declared. 2 months later, GPT 3.5 proved him wrong. Meta eventually spent billions of dollars trying to catch up from this mistake. And he's saying that the most recent assertion of a mistake of this magnitude comes from the New York Times op-ed, which says that judgment is uniquely human. It is a uniquely human skill, one that cannot be automated.
Well, this is unfortunate because having these broad generalizations are are stupid. They're just stupid. A blanket statement like that, like this, is, well, it's false. It is false. Animals have judgment, right? So I don't even know what the fuck I want to do. This shows a lack of nuance.
At least not anytime soon. Okay, so I'd be curious what you think. If you think judgment can't be, or if it can be, maybe you could just do a little bit of an explanation in your comments, because I think I could still be swayed. I'm leaning towards not doubting AI ever again, that it can do everything humans can do at some point, and maybe sooner rather than later. There's been a lot of times people say AI can't do this. That's unique.
It's because you have to define, is it artificial intelligence or is it just a computer that's able to do what most people are already doing. What most people do is pretty basic, or it's set in some specific rules or frameworks for it to work, which is documented because these people they learned it, right? So I mean, you can recreate those frameworks, right? Or these actions or whatever the fuck most people do, right? If I want to set up a specific server with a specific program, and there's also a client of the program on endpoints, and you know I have a specific operating system. This is all information that I can put into the machine, and it's going to create an output, and then it can take what it produced and say, is it good, is it wrong, is it going to, and it's going to create another output. So you can gimmick around, you can fuck around, and you know do a whole bunch of shit like that. Does it make it intelligent? No, 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 no. But if you just take into account that most people are already super stupid, it doesn't matter. You don't need something that's intelligent to take over what most people do. If you have, uh, LiDAR, uh, you, that's able to measure depth, and you have a CNC robot arm that's able to move very, very precisely. It's able to change its heads, to use different tools. You could you could have a dentist out of that, right? Would you trust it with your life? To make a mistake. These they have like hydraulic arms. I want to say that shit is gonna be able to go through your head. If it's not properly calibrated, and it has a fucked up depth, right? It would be able to kill you in a fraction of a second. Maybe people will die, but I mean, dentists already, try to off themselves the most out of all careers. So it wouldn't be too far off, right? But after a period of normalization and having kids growing up with fucking dentists being the robot arm, and people eventually stop dying from regular visits, well, this is going to be normalized, and that's going to be that, and it's going to be fine. Everybody's going to be okay with it. It won't matter. This is why the most important time to brainwash a person is while they're growing up. Well, that was a little bit of a tangent. So it's not intelligent, but it doesn't need to be intelligent to be able to replace most people. And eventually, if you just mash up all the technology and the shit that we're producing, you can create a boring dystopia.
Uniquely human, and then AI kind of does it. Today's models can already give strong advice on CEO rivalries in acquisitions. They can already outperform humans in studies on meditations and ethical dilemmas. Participants even preferred AI's moral reasoning. We covered that in the last video. They can be seen as more empathetic, at least from their text, can seem like they're stepping into people's shoes and seeing things from other people's.
Okay, so this is right now, right? So, if you talk with it, if you don't know, is it gonna pass the Turing test? Yeah, maybe. People were already having a hard time telling If a chatbot was a person or a chatbot, way back when this wasn't even a thing. So it's not surprising, right? What is it?
Perspectives. We've seen them play all sorts, stepping into people's shoes and seeing things from other people's perspectives.
Oh, right. So this was already happening back then, and now there's this huge ass, fuck, huge ass push for people to interact with these models in a very personal way. They want people to open up emotionally. They want to be able to take all these scenarios, all these people that are quote unquote dating their AI models, they're going to take all these conversations and they're going to use that to train the next generation of models. This is going to be the probably end game, right? Because if they get there, they're going to have they will have built the biggest data centers. They will have their 10 gigawatts uh, consumption each. So that's going to be a fucked up toll on all the resources that we have. But if it gets there, then it's going to be able to create relationships even greater, even well, with more purpose and more, you know, I don't know, they're gonna be able to do a lot of dirty shit with that, and that's pretty scary.
We've seen them play all sorts of games and do incredible thinking. So when somebody says it can't do judgment, why do you think people are getting this wrong, if you agree? Is this a classic reasoning where, AI masters a skill, then we move the goalpost again? Chess required intuition, Go required creativity, poker required reading human psychology, math Olympiads required real reasoning. Each one was AI saying, I cleared that bar. We keep assuming there's one level higher where humans stay essential synthesis, judgment, taste. But a question is,
Doesn't matter if it's a judgment or not. It if it looks like it might as well just be it, right?
those learned skills, humans have learned them from feedback and experience. Can it be taught to machines? How far can we keep defining humanity as things AI hasn't done yet? Next up, let's talk about how just simply adding eyeballs to robots affects our perception. I mean, eyes have evolved very specifically in humans. They give us a lot of information about animals and people around us. So I'm not surprised, but it's something we should be very aware of. Because as soon as you anthropomorphize a robot, it starts to be able to get away with a little bit more, I would say. So if you think adding eyes to a robot's a design choice, it's
That's a weird comment. What does that even mean? Get away with a little bit more. What?
more than that. And researchers now have tested what happens when you remove them. They used AI to create realistic humanoid robots, and each robot had two different versions, one with eyes and one without. So when I saw this, I actually thought it was just the robot with its head turned around the other way. But no, this is just a robot without eyes. This is one with eyes. And then people rated what the robot seemed capable of. The key measurement was called mind perception. That means they're predicting whether or not the robot can think. Oh, by the way, I don't know if
They also had a fucked up hand.
my face has been missing for a little while, but if so, my camera switched over, so I'm back now on a different camera. But anyways, back to it. So 2 people are rating the robots to see what they seem capable of. The key measurement was mind perception. That means whether we think something can think, feel, or have an inner experience. Breaks down into 2 parts: agency, the ability to think and make decisions, and experience, the ability to feel emotions. And across multiple experiments, the result was clear. Robots with eyes were judged to have more agency and more experience. It didn't matter if the eyes were part of the screen or built into the face. Even more strikingly, this effect showed up before people consciously reflected on their answers. The presence of eyes changed perception in an early automatic way. Eyes are not decorations.
Jeez, I mean, people go crazy over pets. We project so much. Just let it go. That's a
They are
piece of
quietly
junk.
deciding whether we see it
Look at
as
the
a
hands.
machine or
Look
a
at
mind.
this.
So next up, let's cover this paper coming out of ByteDance, the molecular structure of thought, mapping the topology of long chain of thought reasoning. Okay, so interesting new way to think about what's happening with chain of thought reasoning. So this paper is saying that long chains of thought, they're not just steps getting to a conclusion, but you can think of them like a structure, like a whole connected in a specific way, like a molecule almost. And then that structure.
Listen, I don't want to take anything away from the research or, what people are doing, but it is still a large language model and it's still gimmicks.
Can be analyzed in a topological way, and that matters more than the exact words. Like, what? Essentially, all of those chains of thoughts should be thought of as a geometric object. So they split long reasoning into 3 bonds, similar to like the bonds of a molecule. Deep reasoning is the strong backbone. Self-reflection folds back to fix earlier steps, and self-exploration makes weak bridges try new paths. So very interesting way to look at it. You can actually have 2 reasoning traces that talk about the same idea. They might even have a similar statistical model, but they won't train well together if they don't have the right shape, if they're not semantic isomers, the way they say it. And when you mix isomers, like the shape of this structure, from different strong teaching models, the models don't settle into one stable style. Its bond pattern starts to wobble and performance drops. Even though the data sets work well alone, the fix isn't to copy the best answer, it's to copy the bonds of the distribution or synthesize traces that match one stable structure. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but A+ for thinking outside the box on this one. But that's not the only interesting paper I have for you this week. We're also going to talk about what happens when AI models kind of go at it in a simulated nuclear crisis. So get ready for this drama one. What happens when AI leading models play nuclear chicken and nobody ever chooses to back down? So the most alarming finding in this paper wasn't actually which ones decided to nuke the others in this simulation. It was a total absence of surrender. Across 329 turns with 30 options on the escalation ladder, including 8 clear de-escalation moves, not one of the models ever chose a negative action. Not once. They could have made concessions, they could have withdrawn, they could have symbolically taken a step back, but none of the models.
There's so many things wrong with that. The only thing I'm gonna mention is that if you have these models, right, and you present them with a list of options, and they are known to have a bias for the last thing that you in the prompt or the last thing that you gave, like where does it come into play in your explanations, right? How many times have you done that? Have you done that with all the different options and all the different possibilities? There's like 30 uh, times 30 times, right? So that's a big ass number of possibilities. So it is so unlikely that they've done anything like that. And so, you know, maybe I'm gonna be wrong. I'm always wrong, anyways. But what if the de-escalation is, in the first few options? Anyways, I'm talking out of my ass most of the
Models
time.
did, even when losing, even when behind, even when nuclear weapons were on the table. And de escalation, when it did happen, only meant using less force, never giving ground. And it matters because those same models were willing to cross the nuclear threshold. 95% of games involved nuclear use, 76% reached strategic nuclear threats, but surrender? 0%. They have learned how to deceive. They have not learned how to concede. There's a new AI tool that can predict solar storms weeks before they strike. Solar storms can shut down satellites, disrupt GPS, and even damage power grids. They start in these unstable areas on the sun.
In the 1800s, they fried the telegram cables, the telegram copper cables. They fried them. They fried them. They got so hot that they fucking fried them. Do you know how much copper is in a house walls? Do you know what the fuck plumbing is made out of in most places? There's so much copper everywhere. Your Ethernet cables, cables, electronic cables, it's fucking copper cables, mini cables, threads. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm sorry.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
Yeah, that's all, mate.
Informed neural network, which means it combines artificial intelligence with the known laws of physics. And instead of looking at small magnetic signals on the sun's surface, it connects surface images to the deeper magnetic forces underneath. And it's making some predictions that are happening weeks in advance, not hours. And this longer window could help protect satellites, power grids, and astronauts on future missions to Mars, and marks a major step forwards in space weather forecasting. Let's talk about a new AI model leak. So, of course, the large language models are trained on a huge amount of text, and because of that, they can accidentally memorize sensitive information. So, to fix mistakes or remove private data, engineers often edit the models instead of retraining them from scratch. And one of the common methods for doing this is called locate, then edit. It finds the part of the model responsible for unwanted information and then directly changes those internal settings. But researchers from several Chinese institutions found a serious flaw in this approach. They showed that the parameter updates, the internal changes made during these edits, kind of act like a fingerprint, and that fingerprint can reveal clues about the data that was supposed to be removed. They built a two-stage attack called a caster. First, it analyzed the mathematical structure of the update to recover the subject that was edited. Then they used an entropy-based method to rebuild the meaning and context of the original information. Now, they do have the beginning of a solution to this.
That's crazy.
Subspace camouflage. It's meant to hide the way that the fingerprint goes in and mixes and misleads signals that are looking for it in the future. But that might even be more complicated than just retraining it in the first place. So we'll have to see where this kind of research leads to. There's another interesting new AI model out this week that cleans up messy brainwave data and moves us one step closer to turning thoughts into text. There's some Neuralink stuff. Companies called Zephyra announced Zuna. It's a foundational model directly trained on brain data.
That's scary.
So the point of it is to clean noisy EEG channels. So think about like one of those upscaling AIs for images or video. It's trying to upscale, kind of improve the quality of messy EEGs.
Listen, I don't know if you've ever used the AI image upscaler, but that shit, it lies, quote unquote, or it hallucinates s- some of the information to be able to upscale it, right? Because if you have, like, let's say an image, you, if you just stretch it, eventually you're just going to see the pixels. And so but you do need it to be stretched so it passes over and it tries to smooth out, but it adds information where there wasn't and so it fucks it up.
So the best methods that we have right now are called spherical spline interpolations to fill in missing signals, but they don't work nearly as well as an AI-driven approach. And now Zuna has learned a better method trained on 2 million channel hours of EEG data. And this is a step towards a clear goal to build a general brain model that can eventually support non-invasive thought-to-text systems. Got to clean up that fuzzy EEG until, it's literally reading our brain.
We don't need that. We're all gonna get our government mandated Neuralink.
And finally, let's talk about 8 subtle signs that you might be disassociated, according to a therapist. Maria Casana says that she had dissociative disorder for 20 years. No idea. When she was 28 years old, a psychologist informed her that she had depersonalization, derealization disorder. The average adult lands somewhere between a 5 and a 6 on this questionnaire. It turns out she got a 24, but she said she probably should have felt some relief because she wasn't broken. She was just detached, hollow, numb. So the reason I find this kind of interesting.
Don't we all feel like that? Isn't it because, the life that we live are not natural? So I have a big opinion on that one, but
Interesting is I'm wondering if I could put myself inside the shoes of something like Claude, if that's what it's like, right? Like, it says all these emotional things, it says what feels like it should be a feeling, but it's just a pattern. And even if it intelligently understands, even if it's conscious, the feeling isn't going to be the same feeling we have because it's not triggered by memory from the chemicals that are in our human bodies, right? Like, it's just it flowing through your body. When you describe it, you're...
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the philosophical AI, I mean, there's an argument to be made that it's the same thing as us. It would be the same thing, even if it's cybernetics and sensors. But it's the philosophical AI, so.
Just the description. You're not the actual thing. But then I was thinking maybe somebody like this, who's very high on the dissociative scale, maybe they kind of know what it's like to just say it and not feel it. I'm not sure. But it was a thought that I wanted to share with you. And the majority of us will probably feel something that felt a little dissociative in our life. The article says that up to 75% of people will have at least one major episode in their lifetime. And it could be your nervous system.
All right, just another little, I don't know what to call that.
Evidence. Well, what biological and physical tests are there to support the existence of mental illness?
There's no incontrovertible evidence that there is a physical basis for mental illness.
Listen. I mean, there are problems, there are states of mind, that there are things, okay, that people are affected by or afflicted by. People live things, okay? It doesn't matter if it's real and tangible and you're okay, or if you are completely disconnected and, from an outside perception, you might look disconnected. Doesn't matter. If you feel it, if you see it, if you hear it, if you live through it, it is real. It is your own real experience of life. So that makes it real, honestly, sincerely real. The point I want to make with this video is that the other person, she was told by the psychologist that she had that. My feeling, my opinion is that the world that we live in is unnatural. It is unnatural. If we were in a natural setting, something that is proper to our nature as humans, we would not be afflicted. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
At the moment, it's not at the stage where it supports specific diagnoses to 100% validity and 100% reliability.
That's a lot of shit to say, no.
Yeah. So are there any physical tests?
Hard and fast? I don't think so, no.
Currently, in terms of just like blood test, no, there isn't any simple one. There's no absolute proof.
The idea that, you know, say depression, for example, is caused by a chemical imbalance is absolute crap.
Yes, there aren't many. It's very true.
Are there any?
I understand that there aren't many, no.
There's certainly no test that says, you know, there you go, you know, you're depressed.
Actually, there are no biological tests to support diagnosis of mental illness at the moment. So, literally nothing. No test.
Well, they're not, you know, any biological or physical tests. It's mainly a clinical decision, you know.
But for psychiatry, there's no specific test, and that's what actually fascinates me about this subject. Is
there's no test.
No. It's not a. There's no specific test for any of the mental illnesses as such.
There are no physical tests, I suppose.
Nothing which will exclusively tell you that one person's mental illness and someone else doesn't. So, no.
Doctor, what physical or biological tests exist to support that this is a mental illness?
Mental illness.
All right, so it's pretty much the same thing for everybody, but then.
Okay.
I think in the same video, he's going to actually ask if people have cured any of their patient of their mental illness.
I use physical tests. So you want me to answer yes or no?
Biological tests to support.
He seems to have a hard time.
I think it's several. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, doctor.
Did he? Okay, there you go.
It's interesting you've asked me this question because in psychiatry, with aim is to get them better. It's not a cure.
What do you mean by cure? You see, if one.
So you cannot actually say they're curable. You can treat them, but it's not guaranteed cure because.
I don't know. It depends on what. Are you cured? What's cured mean? Cured of what?
Yeah. Like I said, we treat them. Curing is a difficult one to answer because.
I think you have to live with disorders of various kinds. So I'm not sure cure is the right word, except you can.
Because we live in unnatural settings. Anyways, I think it's something to think about. All right, guys, I'm pretty hungry, so I'm gonna go eat, and maybe I'll come back a little later to play some video games. Thank you so much for watching, and if I don't come back later, I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.